unknown prophet here. Welcome. Let's slay some demons. We're going to talk about Scientology. Now, there's a lot of hysteria out there about Scientology, conjecture, anger, love, acceptance of it, praise of it, a lot of emotional attitudes towards it. I find little intellectual commentary or discussion on Scientology. Not saying there is none, but in general, I don't hear very much of it. So let's talk about it. Because here we don't deal with emotionalism. We don't deal with belief. We're not in the belief matrix here. Belief matrix is, ideas that's not based on facts. That's what beliefs are. They're not ideas. The ideas not tethered to facts. You just believe in anything. There's no science, anything to support it. Not saying there isn't, but you don't know that. That's what beliefs are. We don't deal with that. We deal with mathematics, logic, science, physics, truth, reason. So we don't deal with all that emotionalism, hysteria, beliefs. We're not in the belief matrix here. So let's proceed. Let's see what we come up with. We're going to try to get into a little detail here on Scientology, see if it makes sense, and what's the purpose of it, where it comes from. Are there alternate approaches to solving the problem that Scientology professes to resolve? Okay, let's see what happens. Let's move on. So first, let's deal with the system that Scientology professes to address. We need to have some understanding of our physiology. It's all physics. Everything is physical. Everything is mathematical. Everything is energy. It's all physical. Everything. Everything is force. Without force, nothing moves. Okay. We have a brain, we have a heart, and we have a means of expressing, you understand, both. The brain, in this context, is the memory. Let's put it another way. We have experiences. We all experience things. But experience is broken down in two categories. The experience itself and the memory of it. The brain houses the memory of it. The heart houses the actual experience. The heart is the center of the body. And as I've been saying, pressure, everything is governed by pressure. We live in pressure reality. Pressure is just force. That's all pressure is. Expression of force. So, in pressure, we have collisions. We interact with people, all life forms, constantly, at all times, on all different levels. But each interaction is a collision. Some are favorable, some are not favorable, some are fatal, some are non-fatal. You understand? It comes in different levels, but it's still a collision. Every interaction, by definition, is a collision because you interact with something else. You're colliding with something else. Doesn't matter whether you consider it favorable or not, it's still a collision. Mathematically, it's a collision. And collision is pressure. That's what pressure is. When you're in a pressure system, you have temperature, which is the measure of how fast the components are moving in the pressure field. Right? The collisions is the measure of how much pressure there is in the collision field, in the pressure field. And volume is the, the, the confinement of the pressure, the volume that the pressure is confined within. Those are three components of pressure, period. So, the heart is like a shock absorber. It absorbs all those collisions. See, a shock absorber, right? It reacts. So in other words, it absorbs the shock. So it absorbs, so the rest of the car or body or whatever there's a shock absorber of isn't affected by it. You understand? It takes that pressure off the collision, the effect of the collision off the other parts of the body because it absorbs it itself. That's what the heart does. It absorbs the collisions, the experience. But the brain records it, the memory of it. So it's two different things there. One records the memory of it, and one records the actual experience. So the two work together. Now your voice reflects both. See? When you're speaking, right, you're speaking, right, from your memory, but from the volume of your heart. The scriptures tell you, constantly tells you that the heart, right, is your expression of your emotionalism. It's the seat of it. As Jesus said, it comes out of the abundance of your heart. You understand? So we have to understand that connection. There's a connection between your heart and your voice and your memory. Now, another thing about that is that memory is just stored up energy. That's all memory is. Stored up energy. Memory is stored up energy. Right? It's like dormant energy. It's like a book. It's also stored up energy. Right? It's just writings there. But it's stored energy. Because if you take and read that, then it becomes active energy. Right? If you not read it, I'm talking about when you speak it. Because if you read it, just read it without speaking it, then all you do is changing the memory from one medium to another. From the book to your brain, to your memory. But when you act on it, or you speak about it, which is action on it, acting on it, right? Then it becomes into active energy. See? There's a force there. So it's latent force and active force. So the brain, again, right, it stores up energy. The memory is stored energy. And if you just leave it there, don't do anything with it, but it's still energy. So if it's energy, it takes so much energy to maintain it. Because it's taking up energy in your brain. Okay? And your brain can maintain with so much energy. Okay? So hope you understand that. Right? You got the brain and the heart. The brain stores energy, right? In memory. Memory. So when you have an experience, you have the memory of the experience, and the experience itself, right, is absorbed by the heart, which is a shock absorber. Okay, understand the system, and then you convert that into action by, physical, doing something or speaking about it. Okay, when speaking, produce pressure waves. See, that's what sound is, pressure waves. Okay? It's more. Now, in life, we have all types of collisions. When you're dead, there's no collisions anymore. In life, you have all kinds of collisions, all kinds of interaction with people, with animals. You have all kinds of interaction with all forms of life, because life is active. You have all kinds of forms of collisions. And these collisions, right, are stored upon the heart. It's like a car going down, a new car going down a rocky road, right? And all the rocks, right, is hit the car, right, and put dents in the car. So the longer you go down the road, the more dents you're going to have. And that's pretty much what happens to the heart. These collisions, you understand, are absorbed by the heart and leaves their imprint upon the heart. See? And it also leaves imprint upon the memory, right? So you remember them, but you remember the experience, but the actual experience, right, is on the heart. So the difference between the memory of the experience and the actual experience. So you can have a picture of the experience or a video of the experience, that's the memory of it. But how you relate to it, how you feel about it, that's the effects of it. You understand? See? That's the actual experience itself. See? So it's two separate things there. The memory is in the brain part, and the actual experience, you understand? It's like, for instance, the dents on the car. Well, those dents, right, those are actual. But if you take a picture of it, well, that's a picture of it. That, that's not the same thing. That's not the memory of it. So you get the car, you get the disc removed from the car, and now you have a picture of it with the disc removed. But now you have a memory, so you say, I don't go on that road anymore. Right? You say, oh, hey, man, look at this picture, man. Oh, that's how I'm around that road. I'm not going on that road anymore. But discs are on. So the issue here, going through life, is how you deal with these two things. Because if you have bad experiences, they're recorded on your heart. That's going to affect the way you deal with people, affect the way you deal with all kinds of things, because those experiences, your memories will affect too. You understand? Both of them have an effect on how you deal with people. But the more profound one, right, is in the heart, because that's the emotional aspect of it. The memory is not the emotional aspect of it. It's just the memory of it. And you connect the two together. Sometimes people disconnect them. And they'll connect the memory with a different experience, and then you got trouble. But so the issue is, how do you go through life and not be encumbered, handicapped by those experiences? You buy a brand new car, you want to have you run around with a brand new car, right? And that ditch all over it. Now the car, you just ride on this dusty road, right? This rocky road, and now you got this nice car, but ditch all over it. It looks bad. So now the car there, you want everybody to admire it. Say, man, look at the back of the car. It's a brand new car, but it's all messed up. Because you have to drive down this rocky, because to get to your job or whatever, you have to go down this rocky road and it's messing your car up. And you don't want that. You see? Especially if you're a salesperson and you got to go out and interact with people, they see drive up this old dinky car. That's going to affect how they perceive you, aren't it? Isn't it? So that's the issue. It's just how you deal with that situation, how you deal with the experience, and how you deal with the memories, and how you make sure they connect correctly. That's the issue. And that's the issue that Scientology professes to deal with. That's what they profess to deal with. And their term is once that's dealt with, then they call it clear. You're clear now. And we're going to talk about how they deal with it, and is that the correct way to deal with it or not? See, we keep everything rational and reasonable here, no hysteria. You understand? Just talk this mathematically, logically, rationally. So that's the issue. And Scientology professes to deal with. Now, this issue is also dealt with by some religious to some extent, some more than others, but they have a different way of dealing with it. So we'll look at this and see what's going on here. Let's move on. As I stated earlier, memory is in the brain. That's well, actually, you have a different type of memory in the heart because it's shock absorber. So, if you have this in your car, that's like a physical memory, right? So it's like a digital memory, and we talk in AI terms. So it's like digital memory and a physical memory. Okay? So digital memory is what's going on in the brain. Digital memory of an experience of interaction, experience of interaction with something. That's what experience is. That's a collision. So it's a memory of that collision, of that interaction, and stored in the brain. And it's energy. It's latent energy. It's not, it's there. It's not doing anything other than just be a memory. All energy is active. And that energy is active also, but it's only active in terms of just being memory. Because it takes energy to maintain that memory. That's an important point that we're going to deal with. It takes energy to maintain that memory. Just like it takes more energy to maintain a secret than to maintain any other kind of memory. In fact, the deeper the secret, the harder it is, the more difficult, the more energy it takes to maintain it. Because, you got to see. And then some people just, oh man, she only tells you a secret. Now they put the burden on you to maintain that secret. But now you can feel the burden. Some of you can't handle the burden, so then you're going to relieve it by giving it to someone else. And we understand it. Mathematics, Islam is mathematics. Everything is mathematics. So if you take that energy, that brain energy, right, that memory, and you share with someone else, you relieve yourself of it. That means you transfer energy. So if you got 100 units of energy that's take to maintain that secret, and you share with someone else, then maybe you only have 5 units of energy now, because you don't have that much of a burden. You feel a release of it. That's actual. See, we talk mathematics here, not some spiritual, some temporal thing that that nobody knows about. Something that you can't, some mysterious thing. No, that's energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, being transferred. And if you take energy, if your memory's energy, and you share with someone else, right? You actually sharing it, just like you're sharing a load. If you carry 100 pounds in your back, you share it with someone else, and then you carry 50 pounds, they carry 50 pounds. That's exactly how memory works. When you start spreading it around, then you have less of it to carry, and the less energy in that mental energy. You understand? You have less of it. You understand? In your brain, because you put someone else's brain. Think about it. Otherwise, you're saying that you just create energy. Or you say memory is not energy. Then if it's not energy, what is it? Everything is mathematics. Everything is force energy. So we have to understand that. Memory is only stored energy. That's all it is. Now, as we said, the brain is like digital energy, a memory of the experience, like a photograph of the experience. Not emotional, it's just a record of it. The emotions come from you in your heart. The heart is where the actual experience is. That's the shock absorber. That's what shock absorbers do by definition. They absorb the shock. The shock doesn't go anywhere, it stays within them. See, they absorb it. Meaning absorb it, they still maintain it as a cumulative. See? It's a cumulative. So that's your experience when you have a collision, interact with someone, right? Your heart absorbs that experience, whether acceptable or not acceptable, whether you feel a good or bad experience, right? The heart records it. The heart is affected by it. The heart records that experience. It's a dent on the heart. And it's a cumulative. So over the years, it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Like driving down that rocky road, you keep driving down it, and then you just get more and more dents on your car, more and more dents on your car. It just builds up, builds up, builds up. After a while, you see your car start falling apart. So many dents. The heart stores the experience. The brain stores the memory of the experience. Two different things. Two different, completely different things. You have to understand the difference between the two. Again, right? It's like a car. Have a dent. You take a picture of the dents, right? It's two different things. The car is recording the physical dents, and the camera is recording, you understand, and getting a record of the event. So an emotional is just a picture of this recording of it, a record of it. But the actual experience is recorded on the car, the dents. Understand that. Okay, before we proceed, let's look at something that we need to understand before we move on. Every religion talks about this thing called prayer. And we find it more detailed in the Quran, in Islam. But all religions talk about it. So it's a universal thing. Not saying it's correct, it's just a universal thing that everyone, seems like every religion has some aspect of it, deals with it in some way. Okay, then what is this idea about prayers? What is it? Okay, I think we need to address it since it's a universal concept. Let's deal it from the Islamic point of view, because Islamic point of view is more comprehensive. Because there are three aspects of prayer, and all three are dealt with in Islam. There's like in Christianity, only one is dealt with. In Judaism, some aspects of two of them are dealt with, but in Islam, all three are dealt with. Right? It depends on how you are in Islam, depends on what degree, but all three are addressed in Islam. All three are spoken of in the Quran in different ways. Okay, one is the petition. That means you asking the deity, whatever deity you believe in or whatever, for something. You're petitioning for something. That's like a direct communication. See? And that can be done in various ways. And in that regard, there's not so much restriction on how to perform that type of prayer. Like the Christians, they believe that, okay, they bow down on their knees, right? That's the way to do that. Other people think just call it, or any position, it doesn't matter. The point is it's not so restrictive as part when you talk about the petition part. You ask for something. Oh God, give me this. Oh God, help me with that. Oh God, get me out of trouble, whatever. Right? That can be done in any form, anyway, and it's not so much. I don't think any religion really restricts in how you perform that perform that petition. That's one type. Another type is the ritual. Now the ritual, that's pretty much perfected in Islam. And we see that in the 5 prayers. The 5 prayers, that's not something that's, it's a transitional thing in the sense that at different times, different amounts are required. Like We see in Hadith, you have an argument between, or a conversation between Moses and the prophet, where Moses said, maybe you should do 70 prayers a day. So it's not locked into 5. The 5 is the standard nowadays. 5 prayers, ritual. Now the ritual, if you understand it, which I'm not sure most people do, it's just remembrance of Allah. It says remembrance of Allah is the greatest force. So in other words, prioritizes, you understand, your thoughts, your actions, you understand. That's what it does. So in other words, you keep focusing, keep your focus, you understand. But one of the problems is that they say, okay, the remembrance of Allah is the greatest force, but then they don't really understand who Allah and what they mean by that. Because they say the prayers, and so that in most people's mind, they're, okay, well, I'm keeping Allah in my mind, but then what's your concept of Allah? See? Without going into much detail about that here, but just something to say, right? Islam is mathematics of Islam. And in this case, right, you're trying to keep your mind on that level, keep away from superstition and so forth. But I'm not going to really go into a real conversation like that right now because I'll lose some people. So that's the ritual. Just keep your, it's like the organizing of prioritize your thoughts, keep it on a higher level. Because actually, right, well, I will say a couple things. You have the 5 principles of Islam. The 5 pillars of Islam. And that's what should consume your daily life. It should be a daily guide. Those 5 pillars, they encompass Islam. They encompass Islam. They encompass it. That's why I call them the 5 pillars, because that's what the 5 pillars that Islam stands upon. They actually, for the 5 fundamental principles of mathematics, that's what they actually are, what we understand. But that's the 5 pillars that Islam stands upon. So that's what your ritual, that's what you're supposed to be doing, is remembrance of those and practicing them. And say, applying them. And most people don't understand that, so they don't do it. But that 5 remembrance of the 5 pillars and the practice of them. Because they're the foundation of Islam, right? Is that we should be studying? Is that what we should be practicing? It should be observing, applying. And that's what the 5 principles are. That's why Moses said, well, you should do 7 because, you know, people nowadays, they would be, that 5 would be enough. Keep their mind on that. It's not. Anyway, that's the way it stands now. So the ritual is to keep your mind, right? It's a great force. You understand? Remembrance of Allah. But what does Islam stand upon? Where's the 5? Where's all that about? That's the 5 pillars of Islam. You keep remembrance of it and apply it, act on it, not just, you know, that's just something. You know, why memorize the 5 pillars of Islam? I know about it. If you don't act upon it, what good is it? Okay, that's the ritual part. Right? So that's 2 parts of prayer. Then you got the recital of the Quran calls prayer also. Now the recital, what is that? Because you don't hear much people maybe talk about that. But Quran says if you do this, Allah may raise your state of great glory. That's not even promised with the petitions or with the ritual. With the 5 prayers, that's not even promised. That's given to the 5 prayers. It's those who recite the Quran in the voice of Allah. You have to say it. You can't just read it. You have to actually speak it. Recite the Quran in the voice not loud. For half an hour a night, half a night, 1 quarter a night, whatever, I'm paraphrasing. In other words, the more you do it, the better it is. That's the 3 aspects of it. The recital. So what's the recital all about? Recital is about, it is short, right? You recite the Quran. It doesn't say recite anything. Recite the Quran. What is the Quran? The Word of God. We just talked about the heart and the brain and the voice connected. So when you speak, Allah speaks, He's speaking from the heart. Right? So when you take and you recite the Quran, right, since they're connected, the heart and the mind and the voice are connected, right? And you inculcate, you understand the firmness of Allah's heart into your heart. Because you speak these words must come from his heart. So you reverse the process. That's what the recital does for you. See? So it's making your heart more like his heart. And if we say his heart is pure, then that means that's a purification process for your heart. The more you do it, the more purified your heart becomes more firm. His heart is more firm of heart, so your heart becomes more firm like this. You understand? That's recital. That's a three-part prayer. There's three aspects of it. The petition part, the ritual part, and the recital part. Hope you understand that. When you understand that, we'll move forward. So let's move on. So here we are, going through life, going down that rocky road, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, all these gifts on the car, saying you get pissed off because you had this brand new car, you know, what's this Lexus, not Lexus, but Lamborghini maybe. And they got all these gifts on the car, right? And it's bumpy, but man, wow, man, I got a Lamborghini, but look at this, man, it looks like a, you know, piece of garbage. Look how expensive I paid for this, how much I paid for it, look at it. See, all these collisions, all these dents. And then you say, wow, what can I do to solve this problem? Okay, now remember, you got two ways, you have two, the experiences has two aspects to it, the memory and the actual experience, you know. Like I said, it's like the digital and the physical aspects of it. So, what you can do is you can go and paint the car, paint over the dents, right? You can paint over them, or, you know, fill them in, all kinds of cosmetic ways, right? Then take a picture of it. Whoa, look at my, right? They got a picture of it, right? And so now, wow, it looks good. But the dents are still there. The dents have not been removed, they're still there. And that's the essence of the L. Ron Hubbard Scientology method. Because what they do, you understand, is, well, let me add one other thing. Like, say, for instance, taking you have someone else have a Lamborghini, you say, okay, well, hey, can I get exchange doors? Right? So now you put your big enough door in their door, and they gave you a good door, so you have the rest car still lit up, but that door is, you know, that door is look good. So now that part, but that person driving around, they got a lit up door, but the rest of the car was good. Just remember that. It's okay. So his method is to deal with the memory. Transfer some of the dents to someone else, as we just talked about. Or cover them up. Cosmetic. So it looks good, but the dents are still there. See? Because you're playing with the memory. So it looks like you're achieving your goal. And to some extent you are. But you're really not getting at the heart of the problem. So there will be a change, but the real problem still exists. Take sporting, for instance. This gets back to what the Catholic Church does with their confession. Because they realize, maybe not from a scientific point of view, but just from a, you know, experience point of view, you know, over time. You understand? And instinctive, that when you take and you share your memories with someone, all of a sudden you don't feel like you feel a relief. They say, oh, you confess, you feel better. What'd you do? Now you're busting in jail forever. Because it takes energy to maintain memories. And when you share with someone else, you literally share it with them. So the more you share with them, the less you have that burden you have on yourself. They're not secret anymore. And now, but the other person's carrying part of that burden. Is there wonder why psychiatrists, that profession, is the most prone to suicide? when they're the ones supposed to be knowing all about the mind, but that profession is most prone to suicide? Because they're carrying all those bad memories that you share with them. That's not no spooky thing like just went to the ether or air somewhere, just disappeared. No, you dropped that load on them. And they don't realize it, but now they carry those memories around with them also. And especially if they take and can't associate those memories, you understand, with actual experience. So they connect them with their experiences, because they may have similar experiences, and then what happens is just aggravate their experiences. Because they associate your memories with their bad experience that was similar to theirs. Again, it's a very complicated thing when you get down to the weeds of it. But it's very simplistic when you understand it. So you have a secret. Now you always, or you carry every secret, you tell somebody, you tell them. Then you feel relieved. Now the other person carried it. And you're not really relieved, but now you also, by you spilling that secret, right now, you can change the way that person looks at you. So you really haven't been to save yourself from anything. But now you have to leave. But now it's like, you're going to confess. So now you can leave, but now you get busted your ass in jail for it, whatever. So the consequence still, you haven't evaded the consequence. You just change the nature of it. You change 5 plus 7, you understand, to 6 plus 6, right? Or 1 plus 11, you understand? Or 3 plus 9. That's all you did. You just change the nature of it. But you haven't changed the nature. You haven't changed the magnitude of it. Just change the nature of it. So that's what Scientology does for you. They deal with the memory aspect of it. But if they told you that, it wouldn't be so much of a scam. But the fact they tell you that really is a solution to the problem. They charge you money for it. So you walk around paying all this money for something that's really not solving your problem. See, because if you go and take your Lamborghini to the shop and all these dents, and you say, hey, can you take care of these dents? And then you find later all they did was fill in the potato brick. You'd be kind of pissed off, wouldn't you? Because you thought they were going to remove the dents. But the dents are still there. You just can't see them. Until you have an accident or something, they say, man, the dents are still there. I thought you removed them. See, because they painted them, then you can't see them. But they're still there. That's where the scam comes in at. And then they're paying all this money, you understand, for a process that they claim they're doing. You understand, they feel that they're performing and they're not. See? For a solution, they claim that they're performing, they're not. See? They don't provide you, well, they are providing a solution, but not the solution. See? Because it comes up in the ditch, and you don't see a ditch anymore. But they have you thinking that they have removed the ditch, and they have not. Well, you're clear now. No, you're not clear. See? You may be clear the memory, but you're not clear the dents. And that's where the real problem is, in the dents themselves. And that's what Scientologists scam. Now, there's told you up front, look, all we doing, we don't remove dents here. We don't remove dents here. What we do is we cover up dents so you can't see them. Then that would be a whole different issue. And you wouldn't go around thinking that your car is dent-free when it's not. When it's dent-clear when it's not. That's the problem. Hope I said enough about that. Again, let me reiterate about the memory aspect, about as far as you share your memories. Energy, memories are energy. Memories are stored energy. And when you share it, you literally share it. So if you say you have 100 years of energy and you share 25 with someone else, now you got 75 years, they got 25 of it. It didn't go away anywhere, it just changed form. You just transfer from yourself to someone else. So it's still there. You only have to burden 75% of it. Now they have to burden 25%. That's wonderful. But understand that. You go out running your mouth, telling people things you shouldn't be telling, and secrets that you think you're sharing them is there because you're not doing yourself any favors. Because once you reveal it, right, you may feel relieved, understand, but then that person has a negative aspect that they didn't have before. So you know right relief, but now you have a more difficult problem dealing with that person. which didn't happen before. So if you got secrets, keep your mouth shut, keep things yourself. Don't deal with the memories, deal with the experience themselves. Because memories are good. Remember, memories is just a picture of the event. But the event itself, the experience is on your heart. But memories keep you going down the dirt road anymore. Man, look, you know, man, see what happened when I go down the dirt road? So you want those memories. If you had bad experience with someone, you want that because now you know about that person. You don't have to deal with that person anymore. You don't have to be an emotional connection. Memory is not an emotional connection. It's just memory. So you have situations with people, bad situations. Is there you see? I don't even go there with him. You see all kinds of things happen to you in your life. Bad things, not so bad things, whatever. You understand? Experience with family members that maybe shouldn't have had certain things. Well, now you remember them. You don't want to forget those things. Why would you want to forget those things? So you can repeat it again? No. Now you know how to avoid those things, who to avoid, and not only that, but now you can talk to your children and pass that privilege on to them, not in the form of memory, instead, but in the form of information, so they can avoid those types of situations themselves. Nothing wrong with memories. See? But that's what Scientology did with it, trying to minimize those memories, get you to forget about them. So now you walk around home, man, you forgot about all this stuff that happened to you, and so you think you're clear, you're okay now. See? When you're wide open, wrong, you'll be running right back into them again. And there was this thing, and I'll just take a little segue here. There was this thing called by this name, one of Bernhardt, or whatever his name was, many years ago, back in 67, I think it was. His own idea was that you have all these biases, right, which are memories. That's what biases are, memories, right? And so his whole idea was to get you to get rid of those biases. Because that was, that gets back to the same thing about what L. Ron Hubbard, the same idea, you see, to get rid of that. See? Yeah, because they was giving you inhibitions that you shouldn't have. And that's it's taking and control your life, it's impeding your progress. So I'm giving you an example. I don't know, example that I've read about. Because he got sued out of existence from what I understand. You can follow me. I'm not making any concrete definitive statements here. I'm just saying what I remember of it. Okay. So what I understand was this example I was given to me. There was this old woman, old elderly white woman. So she went there. So now she dropped inhibitions about being afraid of black people and black men, all that kind of stuff, right? So she walked down the street, see black guys coming, and normally she would have crossed the street or went back or did something or whatever. She went and stepped going, something nothing happened. They took that person, beat her ass. You know what I'm saying? So she sued him. I think that's the suit that got him out of existence or whatever. Because, see, she had these bad streets. I'm not saying that she should be afraid of black people. You know what I'm saying? See, but she was living, but I understand she lived in a neighborhood with a lot of gangbangers, and she was being careful before, and she avoided trouble. Now she just dropped the inhibition. Those are legit inhibitions. And now she ended up getting the result of it. Okay, let's move on. Now, we talked about L. Ron Hubbard's method, Scientologist method. When you go into personal details about my stuff, people want to go into that. Just because he might have been a crazy man, a racist or anything, don't mean his ideas were wrong. Because if he come and tells you that 5 plus 7 is 12, it's 12, isn't it? So, that has some bearing on, because he's a racist, he's a nut? No. The scientific method may be accurate, maybe strong, maybe, because devils look at devils, not evil they are. but their mathematics works. So you're going to say you're not going to use a laptop, an iPhone, less than anymore because these people are evil, devil, wicked? You know, the two don't add up. The mathematically sound is what you do with it that's the problem. Okay, so we're talking about L. Hubbard's method, the Scientologist method. We're going to talk about the Quran method. Because the Quran method deals with the experience, the real problem. Some of you may be ahead of me already because I already talked about what reciting the Quran does for you. Because reciting the Quran is a remover. It cleans up the heart, it makes the heart more firm. It purifies it because you inculcating, you understand, the condition of Allah's heart into your heart. And you keep doing it. The more you do it, the better it gets. And the more ditch you got in your heart, right? See, the more emotional it is, the more work you have to do. But there's, the more ditch you have, the more work you have to move those dents. But once you start, right, the dents will start being moved until eventually all move. Once you remove all the dents, right, then you're in a maintenance phase. You see? So now you can just do enough, because you got 20 years worth of dents on the car, so now you got to move 20 years of dents. But you're still driving on that dirt road every day, right? You know, you need enough to get 5 or 6 dents a day. You need to move 5 or 6 dents every day. You're in a maintenance mode. So once you get there, at that point, you see? Well, and then, if you want to go beyond that, that's up to you. Like Rob, but he's like 7, 6, 8 hours now. I can't do it. I've tried. I've got to 3. It's hard. That in itself tells you something to it because it's hard. It's difficult. And lifting weights is hard. See, but with no pain, no gain. And that tells you right there, it's doing something to you. But why would it be hard just reciting something? And you feel it in the heart when you do it. But when you do it, you get like you can't. It's hard even to say any words at all. It's difficult. So I can't say these words. I just can't say but right because something's having an effect on it. That's long and short of it. There's not too much more to say about it. See? So when they come tell you this Scientology stuff like Allah forgot or he didn't know about that you need this, and this is so fundamental to your life, so fundamental to your existence, Allah just missed that one. You know about how he had to come up with it? And somebody's supposed to tell that I taught him? Come on. This is so fundamental to your existence. The Quran is about about your heart. Your heart's probably mentioned more than any part of your body in every scripture. And all of a sudden, they missed that part? Did they give you any solution to it? No remedy? There's your remedy. And you have to pay for it. And you got to share with anybody. You got to share your secrets with anyone. Keep your mouth shut, right? Do this in private. At your leisure, at night. You know, you should be excited. So you're not revealing anything to anyone. But you clean your heart up. What Jesus said, you cannot come into the kingdom unless you have to have a heart of a child. That means your heart has to be clean and pure again. How you going to get it like that? Why, just leave it to Jesus? No, it's not going to happen. Scientology is not going to happen. You can cover it up. But the dents are still there. So you're still acting out of those. You're still acting, you understand, with those dents. You know? You're still being influenced by those dents. But you recite, and you can find out truth yourself overnight. If you got a lot of dents, a lot of bad experiences over, if you got a lot of bad experience over your life, you get to work quick. You know? If you can say 2 hours a day, you know, spread out. Hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon, hour in the evening, whatever. So as much as you can, you start seeing those dents start going away. And then you start dealing with people better. So you have a better experience with people. See, a more refreshing, you understand, a more healthy experience. But you haven't got rid of the memories because now you know what people deal with. You know this devil's devil, so you avoid it because now you got to, because you don't want to get rid of that memory. So you say, oh, I'm avoiding them, but they're devils. Well, you get how to deal with them because they're devils. That was the memory. You still need that. You don't want to get that up. And then, but you have more healthy experience with all walks of life. Because all the this and that, and people look at everything, look at that nice car you got, man. Ooh. It's in good shape, man. Man, it's beautiful. See, and it's real. It's not covered up. See, that's what's going to relate to you. That guy's healthy. You know, you ain't all emotional anymore. You understand? You're all depressed. You understand? Oh, man, you know when you have trouble dealing with men because some problem here with men in the past, that's gone. Dealing with women because some problem here, that's gone. The relative, that's all gone. Because you removed the debts. But you haven't removed the knowledge of the experiences. That's not the emotional part, that's just records. You remove the emotion, your emotional interaction, the emotional reaction, you remove that. So now you can deal with people intellectually. You understand? Rationally, logically, because you remove the emotional element out of it. You understand? So that's all you need. Islam is sufficient. So this lying Farrakhan's telling you about the Scientology stuff and everything because he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Plus he's making money off of your misfortune, of your ignorance. There's nothing in Islam you have to pay for, not with money. So oh, you get zakat. The life's for you get zakat. That's for your benefit. But now they charge you to do something that's fundamental to your whole nature. You gotta pay for oil and all this stuff. But think about it. See, you haven't thought this thing through. One of the holes they got on Farrakhan, one of the holes they got on those is doing that. Why do you think he's saying those things like, well, some of you out there, you mess with your daughter? Why do you think he's saying? Because the people that's paying for it, they run back to him and tell him what the hell you all about. You think they're not going to tell him? He knows all about you. That means the devil's all about you too. That's how they got control over you and him. Are you that stupid? You think they keep that secret? They're all about you. So if you go out there and start acting a fool, where they snatch you down, they slap you down hard. You understand? That's part of the reason why they put that Scientology in. You understand? To get leverage over you. We ain't talking about those demons. Hell with them. They with them. Whatever you do with them, we don't care. Some of those that weak is still caught up in that mess. Like I keep telling you, that's my position, that's my purpose, that's my mission. To talk to 120,000 regional that can't discern their right hand from their left. That means they can't discern a lot of Muhammad's teachers from Farrakhan's teaching, because they only have Farrakhan's version where a lot of Muhammad talk about, so they think that's a lot of Muhammad's teaching, but it's not. Hope you understand this. And I try to put it in a simple, logical, mathematical, reasonable way for you to understand it. And anything I said, you can go back and check, because that is totally accurate. Scientifically, mathematically, you understand? Totally accurate. So it's up to you. If you're a reasonable person, if you're a original person, then you should be able to identify this. If you apply this, you understand? You understand? For your salvation, for your good health, your mental stability, your mental health. If you're a demon, you don't care, because you applies anyway. It's not going to help you even if you get there. You see? Well, I'm not going to say that, because you can get it, but you're not. Now, Elijah Muhammad called Islam the science of Islam. Called it a science. See, he didn't call it religion, because Islam is not make sense, but it's a religion, it's a way of life. But he called it the science of Islam. It's a science. See, because we're all mathematics. Islam is the mathematics that applies to our condition, our human condition. And when you apply it, that means you have control of your condition. It's like a manual for operating your car. If you don't disobey it, you don't listen to it, then, next day you know your engine receives or whatever. That's what Islam is, a science. And the 5 pillars of Islam is the science, that's the science of it. Because the 5 pillars of Islam is the 5 principles of math, 5 fundamental principles of mathematics. How it applies to you personally. You apply them, you understand, have a whole presentation explains the mathematical aspects of it. You will be successful, you'll be powerful. You'll be the God you're meant to be. You understand? But then you have control of your existence. No mystery God, anything has any control of you. You have control of yourself. Only one can defeat you is the one who has more wisdom of the science. And that's the supreme being. It's a supreme being, you understand, the God and the high priest. See? Those only ones can defeat you because they have greater knowledge of it than you do. The Quran says it makes recital 6 to 8 hours a night. What do you think that's all about? Can you do that? Why do you think he does? You think he just have fun, just walking around back and forth, reciting the Quran for 6 to 8 hours a night? That's just, who wants to do that? Must be a reason. Maybe just get up on that reason. Maybe you try it. I've tried. I've only got to 3 hours. It's hard. It is difficult, very difficult. I can't imagine what 6 hours would do. But it's a science. It's not mystery, mystique, conjecture, beliefs. It's a science. And I've just explained to you how it relates to your heart, and your health, your mental, and your mental and emotional health. See? That's the problem. I'm not going to all other stuff about pressure and stuff. I talk about that in other places. I just want to focus on that one here. The Scientology mess. In a clear, rational, you understand, mathematical, you understand, way. Okay, wrap this up. Again, Scientology purports to solve a problem that it doesn't solve and address a problem. It is a problem. It is a problem. It is a problem. They don't have the solution to it. See, they have a cosmetic solution to it, which doesn't solve the problem. See, if you're 90 years old, you got all this makeup on you, you're like 60, you're still 90. The makeup's not going to change how you feel. It might change how you look. You're still 90. And so, really, what he's addressing is the second principle of Islam. The second principle of Islam is slots. We're not talking about the 5 daily prayers here. We're talking about the recital. That's what the second pillar of Islam is all about. The second principle of mathematics, see, which is circulatory system. When you recite, you affect the heart. Heart is the engine of the circulatory system. Circulatory means it's spinning. Anything that's spinning has torque. Torque is uplifting force. Torque is uprighting force. The more torque you have, the more bright you are. It's like a spinning top. The more fast it spins, the more bright it becomes. And it starts spinning slower and slower, it starts to wobble. So the more slots you make, the more excited you make, the more bright you become. You start wobbling again. And while you just fall over dead. Anything that spins also generates magnetic field. Magnetic field is like a protection. See? It's like a force field. Right? It protects you from other. Because you have a magnet, right? If you try two poles that are the same, they keep apart from each other. See? Women generate an opposite thing, it's called negative spin. So in other words, they have negative, so that's why 2 poles come together. So that's what it's addressing. It's addressing the second pillar of Islam, the second fundamental mathematics, second fundamental principle of mathematics. That's what it's addressed here, you understand, with Scientology. But Scientology doesn't deal, they deal with the problem, but they don't really have a solution to it. They just have a cosmetic solution. So if you want to keep dealing with it, fine. But it's really hurting. because they're dealing with your mind, right? So it's destroying your mind. It's like hypnotism. You think something's happening was really not happening. When the root of the problem is in the heart, that's what crime deals with. It deals with the heart and also the mind, primarily the heart, right? Okay, thank you. I'm ready. Unknown prophet here. Welcome. Let's slay some demons. We're going to talk about